What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Home Theater Fanatics Live. Tonight is episode 6, and we have a great episode in store for you. Today's guest is Steve Niemi, and he is Director of Global Sales for Pangea Audio Distribution, or I guess you could call it PAD or the PAD. Welcome, Steve. How are you, sir?
Hey, Giles. I'm well. Thanks for having me. I've been watching you a long time, so this is going to be fun.
Man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. This world is kind of small, and you start meeting these folks, and you create this web. And you were referenced over from a friend of mine in the industry, and it seems like you have your hands like in all kinds of stuff, and it's really cool. The way that you work with Pangea and the way that all these different brands are associated with that company, but I don't know that I really understand how all of that works. And I think, I absolutely want to understand, and get that view into the industry and how your piece of that market works inside of kind of the big machine. So maybe you can start with a little bit of your history and your background, and then transition into, what is Pangea Audio Distribution? What do you do, and how does that fit into the big machine that is the hi-fi world?
Yeah, thanks. I started in the audio world almost by accident in the early 80s, between my junior and senior year in high school. Wanted a seasonal gig, and I ended up finding an ad in the newspaper for Circuit City. They were hiring seasonal people for the warehouse, and benefits. And what really got me though was the employee discount. So
absolutely, I understand that.
So once I was in the door, actually stayed on past the seasonal gig, went through the management training program, and lasted there. Really enjoyed myself in the retail space until the early 90s, when I moved to the manufacturing side, which often happens when you're working for retail. And, you're thinking, I don't want to do retail anymore. I want to do something else. And I moved over to a 12-volt manufacturer called Clifford Electronics.
I remember those guys.
Yeah. Premium product. I was in Southern California most of my life. So this all happened.
Didn't they make car alarms and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Car alarms, remote starters. They were one of the earlier developers, users of telematics.
Yep.
So had a lot of fun there. And then a company that I think probably just about everybody that's listening and watching now has heard of. I moved on over to Nakamichi.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, that was the brand. I still want a Nakamichi cassette tape player.
They're out there, yeah. And there's some companies that will fix them, replace belts. Great products. I was there in the late 90s, early 2000s, and what was interesting was that was kind of where I made my way from, just being kind of on the car audio 12-volt side, which is kind of what got me into it in the first place, because I was a band geek in high school. That's the other reason I started Circuit City.
Me too.
Yeah. What'd you play?
Trumpet.
Me too.
It's the best instrument.
Yeah, it is.
I did some marching stuff too. So I marched with a drum and bugle corps and played soprano, which was kind of cool too. That's like a whole different kind of thing.
I tried out and I didn't make the cut.
Well, I marched for a little tiny class A60 corps, which they don't have class A60 anymore. They call it class C or something now. I don't know, but it was super tiny, so it wasn't hard to make the cut.
Okay. Anyway, so I was with Nakamichi, and I was still in a technical role at this point, between the home and the car audio. And from there, I moved over to another manufacturer, AudioQuest. That was my first, I guess, real sales gig, where I was hired on as a regional. And it was a great, I was there 12 years. Bill Lowe's still there, founded the company in 1980. Great company, cables, Dragonfly, Nighthawk headphones. I have a pair sitting here on my desk.
See, that's something I want to get my hands on one day. I've never listened to a pair of them before, so that's on my list of to-do things.
I have some of the originals that Skylar made with the wood.
Really?
Wood ear cups. I'm not that far from you, so maybe when we're
one day.
Yeah, we'll meet up for coffee, and I'll hand them over for a loaner.
Yeah, I could have them on as the featured headphone of the week.
You got it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So I've been with Pangea Audio Distributing for about 5 years now. And I think you mentioned my title coming in, Director of Global Sales. And that's kind of 50% of my job. And the other 50%, and that's what's going to tie into your question at the beginning, is, what does Pangea do?
Right.
The other half of my job is overseeing, or overseeing is probably not the right word, but I'm heavily involved with product development.
Really?
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Anywhere from product concept to things like putting a manual together, helping pick colors, and I mean, there's a lot of people at Pangea Audio that's involved in that. So I'm just one of the many coordinators there to help make that happen.
So how big is Pangea? I have no sense of scope for the size of the company. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know how to really quantify how big we are. We started about 12 years ago, and this is maybe a segue. And when we started, it was really just a single cable. This is our AC14 still exists today. Our first,
right.
Our first power. This has got the European Chico end on it, but the idea behind the company was, how do we make cables affordable and approachable to anybody? Well, you can't make it for $2,500 because not everybody's willing to take a $2,500 gamble.
Sure.
So we've brought on Jay Victor, who's a world-renowned cable designer. He's been designing cables on an OEM basis since the early 80s for just about every cable company you can think of.
Wasn't that initial conversation around that relationship where he came on board had at a show one time? I think I heard the story where I don't remember the names, but the guy was like, I'd like to do some cables, and this other guy was there, and guess what? I do cables. And then they talked, and boom, there it was.
Yeah, it was CES. It was Las Vegas CES. It was 12 or 14 years ago. I don't remember what year it was. And Jay said, yeah, I can make a cable, and I can probably make it pretty good for $30 if that's the price point you want to hit. And from there, the line just exploded from just a single 14 gauge source cable to making C7 ends, to then bringing in the AC9 line, which is a 7 gauge cable. Then we started making cables for Europe, because as the company grew, as the line grew, we started having inquiries from all over the world. So that's where the distribution part comes in. So we manufacture, I'll put up the brands that we have. So Pangea, Record Doctor, and Vincent. So Pangea, that's our brand. We own that brand. We manufacture that brand. Everything about that brand is us. Same thing with Record Doctor. That's us. And then the third brand, Vincent Audio, that's a true distribution line for us. There's a manufacturer in Germany, Vincent Audio. They make the stuff. We import it to the US, and then we sell it to dealers and consumers direct. So that was a very long roundabout way about kind of what we do, but I did try to put that in a nutshell there.
Right on. So just to be clear then, so you have your own brands that you actually develop in-house and then produce and sell. And you're kind of soup to nuts for those brands. And then on the, I guess, pure distribution side, that would be Vincent Audio. And there's a separate company that's an independent entity, and they design and produce these things. And then you facilitate their worldwide distribution?
Yeah. So for Vincent Audio, so Vincent makes the product, and then they have distributors around the world. They have distributors for us, we're us in the US. They have a distributor in Hong Kong. They have a distributor in Vietnam. They have a distributor in Thailand. Same thing for us. So we make, let's say we make a AC9 power cable. We make thousands of them. We sell them direct ourselves in the US, sell them to consumers. We sell them to dealers, and then we sell them to distributors all over the world. So we also have distributors. We have Germany, France, Vietnam, Thailand, Brazil. You can go to our website before we run out of time with naming the countries. And then if you were in the US, you could look at the dealer list and probably find a mom and pop hi-fi shop, which is down the street, and go audition some Pangea cables or some Record Doctor cleaning machines.
That's awesome. That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about before we talk about the brands, let's say hi to all the viewers out there that have hopped in. So Double A, welcome. Good to see you here. Hi-Fi Haven. He's also a local Colorado guy. So it's always good to have more Colorado forces here. Okay. So welcome. Audio Architect, my partner in crime. He's joining us from the gallery today. Mad Prana, welcome. He's one of our mainstays. Glad to always see you here. Joey Peacock, he hails from Accurus Aragon, so India Audio Labs. Always happy to have you here, Joey, supporting. Who else do we have? I think Mike had a call out. Where's it at, Mike? He says Steve might know your brother.
Milton.
There we go.
No way.
Milton Perez.
Holy cow, Milton. No way. That's his brother.
That's his brother. Yeah.
And
that's from the Audio Quest days, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have great memories of Milton.
Yeah. So it is a tiny little world here. It's super interesting. And then some new folks, 281 New Edge. I don't know that I've seen you on the show before, 281 New Edge, but welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Jason W., glad to have you here with us as well. And for the folks that I missed, sorry about that. But, if you have questions, feel free to call those out. But what I'd like to do now is just dig a little bit into the brands that you either represent, meaning Vincent, or produce directly, Record Doctor and Pangea Audio, and a little bit about what those products are. And one thing that's, all these things are interesting to me because I really like all these brands, but I have never been a vinyl guy before, right? That's something that I've not done, but I am slowly working my way into that. And I'm taking everybody kind of along for the ride as I experience and learn how to deal with vinyl, how to implement vinyl. So, I talk about it a lot with a lot of people, and, they have advice, and then they like to take advice from the things that I learned. And Record Doctor is interesting because it's kind of like the maintenance tools that you need to really keep a vinyl collection in tip-top shape. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of the products that Record Doctor provides and why this is something, if you're into vinyl, that you would really need and want.
Yeah, great question. So there's a lot of different ways to clean your vinyl. One of the simplest ways is just with a brush. This is happens to be one of ours, but just to brush the dust off at the very minimal. You want to keep your stylus clean and keep the dust off the record. So Record Doctor is 21 years old now. So this is behind me is our Record Doctor 6.
I see that.
Yeah, that's our 20th anniversary. So that's the gloss black cabinet. We also make one that has a carbon fiber vinyl finish. Sorry for the viewers.
Pretty. Yeah.
So that's another option. But, if you look back at 20 years ago, there weren't a lot of vacuum-based record cleaning systems. So people were using the disc doctor or the different brushes and fluids just to clean the fluid off. The problem is you're just kind of moving the dirt around.
Right.
So vacuum-based cleaning systems like Record Doctor and Nitty Gritty and Project, and I mean the list goes on. They're really important because the way the Record Doctor works, and we'll talk about that, is you just put the fluid on the top of the record, you brush it down into the grooves, flip it over, turn on the vacuum motor, and that has a strip that goes along the bottom of the record. And that vacuum starts to extract the fluid. And what's in the fluid? It's the dirt, it's the dust.
Right.
It's the gut. And then you just slowly turn the knob. And as the record rotates around, you're just pulling all that gunk deep out of the grooves. And you're doing it really affordably. So that's where we come in as a brand for Record Doctor. So if you look at our motto for Pangea and Record Doctors is affordable products high-end products at down-to-earth prices. Mm-hmm. So we bring the high end down to where it's really reasonable for everybody. So even 20 years ago, we were making very affordable record cleaning machines. So the Record Doctor 5 to this day is still $199 retail.
Oh, wow. That's super affordable.
Yeah, so you get the box is the same size between the 5 and the 6. The actual machine, it's about just a little. It's like a size of a shoebox, just a little bit taller.
Right.
And so for $199, there's a vacuum motor inside. You have the cleaning strips. It includes a brush. You have the turning knob. It includes a bottle of fluid, and you are ready to go and get your records clean.
Yeah. So, as I've thought about vinyl, I don't know that I'm really interested in going out and buying brand new vinyl. I'm kind of, I don't know, there's more mystique and appeal to me for like the older stuff. And that stuff probably, unless you're getting it from a real collector, I would think that it probably comes pretty gummed up.
Yeah.
When you go to the thrift store or Goodwill or whatnot, and you go digging for vinyl that is something that you would like, that is still in useful condition. Yeah. I was curious how you would deal with that, because it seems like if you have dirty records, it'll just destroy your needle, right? And maybe the correct term is Is it the needle or the stylus? I don't know. There's the tone arm, and then there's the cartridge, and then there's the stylus. Is that right? Okay. So it seems like that would just destroy your stylus, right? If it's all gunked up and you're just dragging it over that thing over and over and over.
Yeah, you can do a lot of damage by spinning dirty records or by cleaning records the wrong way. There's probably more bad advice on cleaning records than good advice, or probably as much on the internet. So just using a reputable cleaning solution, using a reputable cleaning brush, and then, if it's in the budget and you have a little bit of extra space on the shelf for a vacuum-based machine, that much better. And then if you want to go even, another step, you could go to some of the ultrasonic machines. And you're talking about, 10 times the price, 20 times the price. But if you're really serious about vinyl, there are steps of progression to take you through that cleaning process.
That's interesting. Yeah. So that definitely something to look into. And it looks like a lot of people are, kind of echo these sentiments. Big vinyl guy. Vinyl is the shiznit. Gonna have to check that cleaner out. And then the one dissenter. Thanks, Mike. Mike sticks with CD. Mike is the CD guy, though. That's his thing. So I don't begrudge him his CDs. He makes me want to go buy another transport and give him a shot again. Okay, so Record Doctor, and then also Record Doctor. I think you guys have a cool clamp and some other stuff as well, right?
Yeah. So as the line grew and dealers started asking for other products, we have an entire line of solutions and concentrates for cleaning. And talking back earlier about product development, is the idea for an upgraded Record Doctor 6 didn't come from our brain trust within Pangea. That actually came from our distributor in Germany, from customer feedback that said, we want a machine that looks nicer, we want a machine that feels nicer, we want a machine with better brush and better turning knob, and that's where that had come from. Likewise is our record clamp. So our original clamp was about almost an inch taller than this clamp, and this clamps down on your spindle. Mm-hmm. You just tighten this knob down to help press your vinyl against your platter. So this is our newest low profile record clamp. We've done a press release on it, and these will be in stock in about 2 weeks. The reason this is as short as it is because a lot of people listen with their dust cover closed. Now, from an audiophile standpoint, that's not the best solution. But if you have a cat, you have kids, sure, you have dust flying around. Yeah, I want to close my dust cover. So we came out with the same design, same 3-piece design. I think it's about 200 grams. And this will, clamp down to your just about any turntable that's out there.
And that's to eliminate any opportunity for slide. And does it also, if you happen to have like a warped record that you really love, can it clamp it down and smooth it out a little bit? Is that one of the uses, or are those records just, sorry, it's just dead?
Yeah, I mean, most records aren't, I should say not all records are perfectly flat, especially you were talking earlier about thrift store buys and things, mm-hmm, like that. That will help with that a little bit. You really don't have a lot of record slide because typically you have a rubber mat or you have a cork, sure, mat or something underneath there. It just really helps to couple the record with the platter. And when you're coupling those two, because typically a platter has quite a bit of density and weight to it. So when you're coupling this thin piece of vinyl down tight against that mat, you're really helping get rid of and dissipate a lot of those resonances and noise that can come in. So a lot of people use weights. We're not making a weight because the weight can be really hard on a lot of the little bearings that are underneath the spindle. Whereas a lightweight clamp like this really helps give you that clamping pressure without the added weight of a big 400, 600 gram block sitting on your record.
Great. So as a segue into the Pangea brand itself, so you showed us a piece of material with the carbon fiber finish for the Record Doctor. Now, does it happen that carbon fiber finish matches the carbon fiber finish that you can get on the Pangea shelving units?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I didn't even talk about our catalog. I was talking to an industry friend earlier, and he was asking, how big is the Pangea line? And I said, I just finished an Excel price book, and with all the different SKUs and colors and lengths, and it was almost 500 rows in Excel.
Oh, wow.
Of all the different products. So as we grew the line, we started making furniture. And again, it's not $5,000 racks. We're talking very affordable racks with 15 to 20 millimeter thick wood shelves with a vinyl wrap, 4 shelf, 3 shelf with vinyl storage, 5 shelf, and they're modular, so you can add wheels, drawers, add another shelf, add a thicker shelf for your turntable. The list goes on. But this carbon fiber vinyl I showed you earlier started on our carbon fiber Vulcan rack series.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we came out with Record Doctor 6, I don't remember where the idea came from, but wouldn't it be cool if we had a Record Doctor that was wrapped in the same carbon fiber vinyl that we've had on thousands of Vulcan racks that we sold so far?
That is cool, and I like the way that those things can coordinate. It gives you that consistent feel in your system. And for me, the aesthetics, while not the important part, I still like things to look good,
Sure.
and I think that's a nice way to coordinate it. One thing that I really appreciate, and I don't know when you guys released this, but I had looked at the Vulcan shelving before, and then at some point later, I took a look and noticed that you guys had added the X braces on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how long ago that was, but that really sets those shelves off. I mean, that I really like that look. It really takes it to the next level as far as just the aesthetic, and I don't know, it looks classy to me. I like it.
Yeah, that was actually born out of necessity. We started with just a 4-shelf rack, 4 15 millimeter thick shelves with posts that are anywhere from 8 3/4 inches to I think 4 inches from the top, something like that. And then people had wanted a turntable stand. Specifically, I want a stand that can put my turntable on the top, my phono or my integrated in the middle, and I want to store my records at the bottom.
Right.
Well, that's great, but 110 records, I think, is what the storage is on that bottom unit. That's a lot of weight on the rack. So we added the X braces to the bottom of that turntable stand.
Huh. Okay.
So,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
then from there, we actually introduced an entire series as part of the Vulcan line that had X braces on every single shelf because of the rigidity that it added, and we also made those shelves thicker. So you're actually dealing with a 19 millimeter thick shelf instead of a 15 millimeter shelf. And the nice thing is you can start with a 4-shelf Vulcan rack for, I think it's $169 MSRP.
That's a deal.
And you can add record storage at the bottom. You can add another shelf on the top. You can swap the 7-inch posts out and put in 10-inch posts because you got that new taller amplifier. And you can add, if you don't want just a regular 10-inch post, you can add 10-inch posts with X braces.
Right.
And all of it goes together without tools.
That's super cool. Yeah. So I have a Vulcan. I think it's just a amp shelf, or it's just a single shelf that's, I don't know, has maybe 2 or 3 inches of feet on the bottom or posts on the bottom with spikes. And I used that temporarily for a massive center channel speaker that I had that I couldn't find a center channel stand that was short enough, right? Because the speaker was so big, and just the way that the room and the screen ended up, I need something very, very low. So for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, I used one of your amplifier platforms as a center channel stand, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
So now let's do another segue. So we've talked a lot about vinyl, and so we've talked about ways to clean records. If we talked about ways to store them and furniture that you can set your record player on. And then I guess even the cabling that you could use with a record player, because I assume you're doing in the Pangea line all of your RCAs and power and maybe XLRs and USB and the whole deal, right? Well, another piece that I've done a fairly deep dive into, and when I discovered you guys in Vincent Audio, the phono stage that those guys sell, I think there are 3 different models, maybe even more. It's really cool. I love the way that they have separated out the power supply unit from the rest of the components for the phono stages. Maybe we can jump into what Vincent Audio does.
Yeah. So Vincent Audio manufactures products. I should say they're based in Germany, and one of the most popular lines for us are the phono stages. So you have your turntable. Most turntables you just can't hook up to a preamplifier or amplifier integrated. You need a phono stage, which actually has the the RIA correction built in, everything else you need to make that turntable talk to your preamp or your integrator or what have you. So we're not able to bring everything into the US that Vincent makes. So we bring in select models, what we think is going to be most appealing to the US market.
Absolutely.
So of all the Phono preamps, you're correct, we bring in 3 models. So they start with the Phono 300, which I've got the Phono 8 back here, which is the predecessor to the 300.
Okay.
And it's a 2 chassis, just like you mentioned. So you've got, in one chassis, you've got your power supply, and the other chassis, you've got your Phono preamp. And as you know, AC power is noisy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put all those in one chassis, then now you've got your AC power and your Phono they're right on top of each other. So with the 2 chassis connected by a DIN cable, you can put them side by side, put them on top of each other, put them a little distance apart. But one of the things that really attracted us to Vincent when we started bringing them into the US 12 years ago is how affordable they were for what they offer. So the Phono 300 for a 2 chassis Phono preamp retail is $350, which is,
and that is, what's the right term? Affordable, maybe is the right. I'm not sure, but that is a great price for a 2 chassis Phono stage for $350. I challenge anybody to go out and find anything near that quality for that price anywhere else. I looked and I didn't see anything. I could buy a set for 10 grand, but that's not for me, right? So this is really cool.
Yeah. So, and Vincent is designing and engineering and specifying every single part that's in there, the circuit board, top to bottom. And in fact, was the Phono 500, which would be the next step up from the 300, was actually just elected as the Absolute Sounds Editor's Choice for 2021. So nice. Steve Stone did a great review on the Phono 500. So for $699, you've got an award-winning, industry-recognized Phono preamp. And then the third model was the Phono 701, which is a hybrid, which we didn't even talk about that yet for Vincent, which is really what they're known for, is hybrid electronics, where you've got the tube, vacuum tube, on the front end and solid state in the back end. And they do that incredibly affordably.
That's cool. It's funny. Just earlier today, Mike was actually over and we were doing some A/B comparison tests between different preamps, using tubes versus non-tube and, different kinds of tubes. And I don't know, if you roll the clock back maybe a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, I was absolutely a non-believer in the whole tube phenomenon. I'd always been just a straight solid state guy. I'd never touched tubes, really didn't understand what was going on. But I have become a true believer, and they really will, I don't want to say make your sound better, but it makes it a little bit different, and it makes sound a lot more approachable to me. It gives it a warmth and feeling, and maybe it's additional distortion. I don't know really what's going on, but there's a demonstrable difference in the sound when you use tubes versus not. And one thing that was almost mystifying to me is that you can have the exact same piece of equipment, and then I think I'm using this terminology correctly, roll your tubes, right? and swap your tubes out for different tubes that are similar, and you can tune your system, and it's really amazing the knowledge that people have around the different impact different brands and models of tubes can have on sound and equipment. So that is really cool to me, because it gives me a whole new rabbit hole to go down and explore, and I love to tinker, and this is really great, and an opportunity for me to go nuts with this kind of stuff. Now, Vincent Audio, so they do phono stages, they do preamps, amplifiers, integrated, anything else? I get DACs maybe?
They do. They just introduced a DAC at Munich last year. We decided not to bring it into the US at this point. We did just introduce a brand new integrated from them, the SV737, and you will see that in one of the major publications very soon. And that's the first integrated to integrate Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, as well as an app that you can run on your phone. So, Vincent has always been a very traditional line, a very traditional 2-channel line, beautiful aluminum faceplates, big, heavy remote, very traditional hi-fi. So we were really excited in Munich last year to see them put Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in one of their integrateds, because it just opens up a whole new world for folks when, they're looking at a hybrid integrated that can do all these things at, I think retail on it's around $3,500, and it is a powerhouse because it uses some of the finest of their German-built amp and preamp stages within.
Any idea if it's going to be Roon capable?
I had not asked if they're going under Roon certification or not. I would hope so, because Roon it's a great platform.
Mm-hmm. And I've become a huge Roon junkie, and I run my Roon Core now, and I pump all of my streaming services through it. I just posted on Instagram, I think it was yesterday. I was sitting and listening to music, and it's like Roon was reading my mind. It was just feeding me music to listen to, and I would listen to the song, and then the next one would come on. I was like, oh, this is great. I've never heard of this, but this is awesome. And then the next one came on, and it was better than the last. And so, the guys over at Roon, whatever algorithm they have developed, for me, it's working. It absolutely is working. So I've really enjoyed that platform quite a bit. So yeah, if that is a possibility for them, that would be cool. Even if not, you can still leverage in any of the endpoints and then just pipe that directly into the unit. But it would be cool if it is Roon certified. That would be very nice.
Yeah.
So at this point, I would like to take a moment and talk about headphones. So I like to do a headphone of the week call out. And today, I want to talk about a brand that I really like, and that has people that I really like as well. And that's my favorite thing, when I can find brands that I enjoy, that I can support, that also have people that I enjoy working with. That's the, I was going to say the trifecta, but there's only two things, so it's the bifecta. And this brand is Periodic Audio, and I have a pair of their IEMs in my ears right now. And my friend Dan Wiggins and his partners created and run that company. And Dan designs, as far as I know, all of the IEMs that they produce. And Dan he designs all kinds of stuff. So he's done like Blue Sound microphones. He's done speakers for Stark Sound. He's done subwoofers for different companies. He did speakers for Sonos. But this is his baby. And I believe that he'll be at Rocky Mountain Audio Fest again this year, since they're going to be back this year showing off all his gear. But, I've done, I have a pair of the Carbons, and I think the other pair is the Berylliums. And they're both awesome. The Carbons are their top of the line, and they go for $400. And, I would recommend anyone who looks for needs a pair of IEMs. And then, they're super tiny, super lightweight. I don't think that they give you the experience as like a big set of cans would. But for me, I keep a pair of these in my car. And I don't know, my wife looks at me and she rolls her eyes and she's like, why don't you just use the $15 ones? And I'm like, no, you don't understand, and this is before the world shut down. But, I would go at lunch and go to a restaurant, and I'd pull these out and I'd listen to music or, something on Audible. And, these are just like my daily driver headphones, and they're super lightweight, and I just squish them all together and put them in my pocket, and the cables will unwind pretty easily. So if anybody's looking for IEMs looking for a new pair, I'd recommend checking out Periodic Audio and maybe put them on your list of things to take a look at. Now, any of your brands doing anything in the headphone space at this point?
We're not. We have a single headphone product right now. It's a headphone extension cable. It's 15 feet long, so quarter inch to quarter inch. I think retails around $49. So if you want to sit farther from your headphone amp, from whatever you're listening to, we do make that. And uses Cardis copper inside.
Oh, nice. That's cool. All right. Now, before we segue out into Content Corner, I did want us to put on our I don't know, those big hats that the fortune tellers wear? I'm sure there's a name for that hat, but those are the hats that we're going to put on. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what the future looks like in the industry. And since you have a view that I don't think anyone else here will have as similar a point of view as you do, in a view into the industry. So what do you see coming? I mean, what what's been happening? What's the hot new thing? Since you work in product development and in distribution, and you're at all the shows, you kind of see what's going on. So what does the future hold for us? So if we were look into the rest of 2021, 22, maybe 23, what are the trends that you see coming up for the market? What's going to be the next big thing?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the bad news, and this really isn't prognostication or guesswork at this point because we've been dealing with it now for almost a year, and that's costs, shipping times, material availability has been tough, and it's been getting tougher. Anybody who lives in Southern California has looked out the Long Beach port and seen 40 or 50 boats out there waiting to come in, container ships waiting to come in, and they're charging a premium to bring goods into the U.S. from overseas. So we're also seeing, the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. So our buying power is decreased as manufacturers overseas, and that's causing prices to go up. And you may have seen that across many brands where prices going up, and that's just us passing along as manufacturers. Us just passing along, materials are more expensive. Steel is super hard to get right now. Lead times on steels have gone way up. Pricing on steel has gone way up. Wood, vinyl, paper, cardboard, all of this stuff that takes to bring a product together. When you have those things coming together, all of them going up at the same time to go into one product, then that product price is going up. And then our lead times, where we may have once had a 6-week or 8-week lead time on something from the minute we place the order with our factory until it's showing up at our door, we're seeing that sometimes 2, 3, 4 times as long, just because that global supply chain is stretched really, really thin after the global pandemic. So that's the bad news. The good news is, while costs may not come down anytime soon, availability is going to get better. We are going to be able to get steel more readily, and wood, and all those other raw materials that we just talked about. And I think the logistics chain is going to sort itself out as well. I think that's when it's going to happen. I can't put that hat on and say when that's going to happen, but that is going to happen. But I think also as part of this is you're going to see a lot of new innovative products coming out. There are going to be a few from us later this year that I can't yet discuss, but watch for the press releases. We try to let everybody know, a month or two out. And along with that, what was interesting was we did not see a slowdown in anything related to vinyl. I do listen to vinyl, but probably still 90% of the content that I absorb music is streaming, just about it. But people are still buying vinyl. They're buying turntables like they can't get them. Everything to support to support vinyl. I don't see that that's going away anytime soon. And, I think that's great for musicians. I think that's great for the companies that are turning out the records. I think that's great for the end user who wants to sit at home and discover that new music. I mean, one of my friends just sent me a link for some of the collectible box sets and a lot of the re-releases. And there is so much vinyl to choose from. And to collect, it's almost hard to decide.
Oh, I bet. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't even really know where to begin with vinyl. I think I'm just going to have to think through what are the things that I always go back to. What is the music that I listen to over and over and over again? And those are the ones that I'm going to pick up on vinyl, right? And then everything else I'll just leave to streaming.
Yeah, and I'll still find myself going back to records that I've had since when I worked in Circuit City. Next door was a Tower Records.
Oh, Tower Records.
So every Friday I had somewhere to go spend half my paycheck, and I still have records from those days, and I still find myself, even though maybe I have something fresh and new that I really want to listen to, in the evening I might just throw something on from the 80s or the 90s that is just like nostalgic, like you said, something you just keep going back to.
That's awesome. Cool. Any other predictions for the future? Here's a question, and this might not fall into your expertise, but I like to ask this question. Is 8K physical media going to be a thing?
Boy, I don't have that hat either. I want to say it's going to be a thing. I don't think it won't be a thing for me.
Sure.
Is it going to be a thing for some people? Maybe. I mean, what are your thoughts? What about you?
So if I were a betting man, I would say that 8K is not going to be a physical media thing. I just I I know that from a sales point of view, companies love to go through generations of equipment, and they like to have new standards so they can build new equipment and go through that sales cycle over and over and over. But I feel that with 8K, they're going to hit some physical limitations that I don't know that people with the availability of streaming and downloads will want to go through the pain, so to speak, of building a new physical standard for some type of media, right? It could be done, and you mean maybe they could release stuff on like a little SD card or something as opposed to a disc. File's a file, right? And that might happen, but I think I don't see 8K as a big force ever for physical media. I think 4K is going to top that off, and then as 8K content comes out in 2030, we still don't have everything in 4K yet.
Right.
I think that's going to be dedicated to new generations of internet that are faster, better compression algorithms, and then for the hardcore folks, full file download services that let you grab the humongous 8K file, which is going to be 4 times the size of a 4K file, that some people might not be able to stream at a quality level that's good enough that it makes it useful over a 4K version. So that's my guess. I'm saying no.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Right on. And speaking of 4K and 8K, this is another great segue, and this is a musical segue. Now, let's take a break and stroll down to a cozy little place I like to call Content Corner. This is where we talk about all the cool content we love to consume. And today, I'm going to tell you all about coming to America. Oh, and so I just watched this one today. And Steve, I understand you watched this a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Saturday night, yeah.
Right on. So it's really cool that you watched this because you can talk about it. Usually I'm like, oh, I just watched the Star Trek season. And they're all like, sorry, dude, I do music. I don't do But so Coming to America, this is the sequel to Coming to America that came out, in 88? 88. So, we're turning the clock back 30 some odd years there to, gosh, when I was 17 or something like that. This movie was great from the point of view of it, they got the band back together again. Like we were talking about before, Arsenio Hall came back. I don't know the name of the actor, but the kind of portly guy who is the herald in Africa that sings with the really high voice. Yeah. He's back. I mean, they brought all the characters back. And it was like I was young again watching the movie. And from that point of view, it was outstanding. Now, I don't think this is going to win any awards for plot. I don't think this is going to win any awards for acting. Because they kind of regurgitated story points and kind of flip things around and that kind of stuff. And I don't want to spoil it for the people that haven't seen it yet. But I really enjoyed just like they brought Salt and Pepper on, right? And I was all like, Salt and Pepper, yeah, you're up in the house, sing that song. So I love the soundtrack, and I just like the way that it took me back in time and gave me all those nostalgic feelings, and it made me think about when I saw the first of the movie. So what did you think about it?
Well, I didn't think it was going to be as nostalgic as it turned out to be. I didn't know they were going to bring back as many people as they did. I mean, James Earl Jones was there. The barbershop scenes with Arsenio and Eddie playing the multiple roles in there. It was like that part was a flashback to 1988. It did lose me quite a few. To use the term, it might have jumped the shark a few times.
Sure.
Throughout there. I did read that the mansion that they used for this was Rick Ross's actual home in Atlanta.
Really?
Music producer Rick Ross.
Yeah.
It looks that much like a Zamundan palace, his house, that they were just able to move cameras and lighting in and film a lot of it there. So there was a lot of interesting trivia because of how many people they brought back for this. and how they brought the rules back.
Did they? I wonder if that went beyond just the cast, and I wonder if they had any of the production folks that had 30 years ago worked on, whether they were camera people or sound or lighting or whatnot. I'll have to check that out and see if they carried it just beyond the on-screen cast. One other thing I will comment on is whoever did costumes and whoever did choreography and music selection and all those pieces, I think they did a really great job. And I think it's also notable to call out that they brought Wesley Snipes in for the show. And I don't like the way they wrote his character, but it was kind of cool to see Wesley Snipes back on the screen. I see him and I'm like, oh, there's Blade, right? Hey, welcome back, Blade. But it's nice to see Wesley Snipes up there. And I guess also the movie was nice because I feel that the movie was made for us. And when I say us, I mean people that are in their 40s, maybe 50s, right? Because if you roll the clock back, the people, we were in our late teens and 20s, during the movie. And I think that's at the time who was really into this. And it's nice that they would make a film that I think was targeted for this generation of people. I don't know that you're going to have a lot of people in their 20s that watch Coming to America and say, man, that was awesome. I'm totally into that movie. I don't think so. But for us, we could talk about this and they say, oh man, it's James Earl Jones again. We got to see him in another movie. It was really cool. And man, it was so awesome. But I think other folks are like, who's that old guy? He's almost dead.
Yeah.
Not to be crass about it, but I don't think it's going to have the same appeal to the younger viewers as it will to people in our age range.
Well, like a lot of what John Landis did, the original director, directed the original, he also did Blues Brothers and he did Trading Places. And you look at the stuff that he did, you're talking about being nostalgic. I mean, these are movies that were, when we were in our 20s and 30s, are just influential to us.
Right.
And he did such a tremendous job of searing the imagery of what was, it wasn't a great movie originally coming, the original Coming to America from a film standpoint, but it's so memorable and so fun and so nostalgic. I think for you and I and a lot of us is just seared in the memory of just being, wow, what a great memory.
Right on. Apparently, though, a lot of the folks that are joining us tonight don't have as rosy a view. Joey, he's not a fan. He wasn't feeling it. Mad Piranha, not a fan either. Had a call out for James Earl Jones. And so the Soul Glow Jerry Curls. Let your soul glow. So they brought back Sexual Chocolate and Eddie Murphy playing the character, the singer, but they did not have the Soul Glow Jerry Curls. I did miss that as well. A number of comments around Tron and folks looking for Tron to be remade again. That would be kind of cool. I've been a huge Tron fan throughout time. And let's see, John Landis made the first one better than it deserved. maybe he did. He was artful when it came to this kind of stuff. So I would give Coming to America. Well, in normal times, I would give it don't buy this one, rent this one. Don't go to the movie theater and watch it. Consume this one at home. Everybody will be consuming this one at home, but I don't know that this is going to be something that I put into the vault in my collection. It was nice to watch once, but I think I'm probably done with it after that. I would go and watch the first one again, but I don't know that the second one would be one that I would give a second view.
I will second that opinion. I feel exactly the same. Well said.
Right on. So what about you, Steve? Anything that you've consumed recently that you think is notable?
So something we recently reconsumed, my wife and I, is Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yeah.
We watched it, we didn't binge watch it. We watched it as each episode came out on Amazon Prime. And, as you're looking for things to watch, and it's kind of sometimes the well runs dry and you go back and rewatch something. So we just finished the end of season 3. I think season 3, episode 8 ends on a cliffhanger. And, that series, the costumes, the scenery, the script, the humor, the acting, the soundtrack, the music. I mean, every episode opens with just, some really memorable track or song, and it all ties in with music and comedy. So we actually watched it for the second time, binge watching it. We're watching probably 2 to 3 episodes every night just to power through, and then we're hoping for season 4 to come out. So really enjoyed rewatching Marvelous. It's amazing.
So for the folks that haven't watched it yet, and I haven't watched it, so I don't really know all of the plot, but this is the story of a female stand-up comedian in the 40s?
60s.
Okay.
Yeah, late 50s. It spans a small period of time, but late 50s into the early 60s. Midge Maisel, yeah. So she's a New York housewife, divorced. Her husband is trying to be a stand-up comic, and right at the very beginning of the entire thing, you find out, hey, she's the real talent in the family, and her career goes from there.
Okay, that's cool. Right on. So that is on my list, but I have not yet bubbled it up far enough to get to the top. I actually just started watching, and I don't even know the title of this series, but it's got Kelly Kukau. She was in The Big Bang Theory, and she's the actress that played the character that married Leonard. And in the show, she's a flight attendant that gets embroiled in a murder mystery, and that is about the farthest genre from something that I would normally watch. But it's pretty interesting, and I think I'm simply watching it because I miss travel so much. And she's a flight attendant or purser, I'm not sure what the position is, on long haul international flights. So, in one episode, they'll be in Bangkok, in another episode, they'll be in Rome, and another episode, they'll be somewhere else. And it makes me remember the days of travel. And I'm like,
it's the flight attendant. Yeah, that's based on a book. I just bought the book yesterday.
Awesome. Small world. So,
yeah.
And I totally knew that. I totally knew it was called The Flight Attendant. I didn't know.
I didn't. Well, I bought the book not even knowing there was a series. Where are you streaming the series?
It's either on Amazon or HBO Max. I think it's on HBO Max.
Okay, I'll find it. Good.
Yep, because I picked that up obviously for all the movies. Well, I really picked it up for Dune. That's the one I want to see. And then they pushed it back again. So I think I'll have to re-up my subscription before they actually air that one. But this is the bonus prize, I guess, and I've enjoyed this one so far. The first episode's a little but it really picks up from there and gets pretty cool, pretty good. And the character she plays is just out of control. And if flight attendants really live the way that this character portrays it, holy smokes, that is quite the lifestyle. So cool. Thanks for your content suggestion there. I will definitely put that on the list, and I think that's probably one that the missus and I would be able to watch together. She's it's kind of funny that she's really into a lot of anime and that kind of stuff, but I think this one might call to her as well. So that'll be a fun one to try out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close to the end of the hour. So I'm going to go through all of the cleanup and get ready for next week. So on the channel, and if you guys don't know, I run all of the Home Theater Fanatics channels on the internet and a lot of the other Fanatics channels as well. So if you are into hi-fi audio video, there's likely a channel out there with the word Fanatics in it for you. So I would encourage anyone and everyone to go looking for those on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And I would also encourage you to smash that subscribe button, because that's my favorite thing in the world. If you want to make me happy, that's how you do it. And speaking of YouTube, I have a number of upcoming projects. And the one that I'm going to touch on this week is where I build a Rune endpoint. So this is a touchscreen box running a Raspberry Pi 4 with a Pi touchscreen 7-inch display, a case, and the Ropey software, which is the I guess the approved Roon endpoint software for small computing devices. And, I put this thing together and I was listening to it today, and it's just outstanding. Costs peanuts to put this together. So if you've got a little elbow grease and a little bit of ingenuity and you're in the Roon ecosystem, this is kind of a cool way to go. And then with that 7-inch screen, it allows you to see what's on rotation, so to speak, right? So, some people will build the Raspberry Pi boxes and put them in a little tiny case and then hide them, and you don't really know what's going on. Of course, you've got your tablet where you're controlling the Roon system, but I really like having that touchscreen because it shows the album art and it shows the artist, and if somebody comes in, they can just look and see what's going on. You can interact, you can pause and play and that kind of stuff with the touchscreen, and I think it's just a nice touch. And for under $200, it's not a bad way to go. The quality coming off the unit is dependent really on the DAC that you put behind it. And I'm using a little Topping E30 right now, and it does a great job with the source coming off of that Raspberry Pi. So that's the video that I'm working on filming right now. Next week's video, or rather this week's video on this Friday, will be a review of the Alta Audio ALEC speakers and their towers, two-way with a ribbon tweeter and 8-inch mid-bass driver. And these things are just amazing. They're kind of upscale, and I believe they're 10 grand for the pair. And they just had to rip them out of my hands when I sent them back. They were that good. So if folks are looking at diving off into the high-end tower market, this video might give you a little bit of a view into what that looks like. And then next week's guest on this show, and this show's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Mountain, and whatever that translates into your time zone, will be Cody from Harbottle Audio. And we're going to talk all about his design philosophy and how he produces drivers and all of his new line of subwoofers that he's coming out with. And he's got a really cool carbon fiber fused enclosure subwoofer that's pretty nifty, that I think people will be interested in hearing about. And he makes that in 18, 24 inch, and these things are just beast. I mean, they are massive. There are a number of reviews out there already on the units, so go check out some of the channels that have done those, and we'll have him here live next week to answer all your questions. So that's going to do it. Steve, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. It was awesome to hear about you, hear about the company, hear about the brands, and kind of what you're doing and your view on the industry. So, again, thank you for coming on with us.
Thanks, Giles. Appreciate it.
Right on. And then also a special thanks to all the viewers out there, especially the folks that have been live with us today. I love it when you guys jump on and have questions. It makes it fun for everybody. So a special thanks to you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it an evening. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.